Okay, so I'm making this video in response to a number of questions that I've received just in the last few weeks. People leaving comments on the other pine pollen videos that I've made, people sending me private messages, contacting me through Facebook. I've had quite a lot of people just in a few weeks asking me specifically, does pine pollen elevate DHT or dihydrotestosterone? Because a lot of middle-aged men and men advancing beyond middle age really want to get the benefits of elevating androgenic hormones and testosterone without running the risk of elevating DHT, because DHT is obviously very closely linked to androgen-related hair loss or age-related hair loss and the enlargement of the prostate. And this is most common in men middle-aged and advancing beyond middle age, but it is also relevant to some men younger than that as well. So a lot of people want to be using pine pollen and pine pollen tincture to get these benefits, but people are really unclear about the DHT issue. So there seems to be a very genuine need to cover this specific topic regarding pine pollen. So DHT is a male reproductive hormone, and it's really, really important in the early stages of development of the fetus and through puberty as well. It stimulates the growth and the production of the genitalia and of the prostate, and through puberty, it's carrying out those functions. It's carrying out that kind of transitional hormonal change and facilitating in that process, but it's also stimulating the growth of hair, of pubic hair and facial hair and all of these kind of things. But then once we get older, coming towards middle age, beyond middle age, if we still have elevated DHT during that period, that's when we have things like actual hair loss and the continuing enlargement of the prostate, which is something that we really want to try and avoid when we're getting into our older years. Hair follicles have a lot of androgen receptors on them, and DHT can bind to these receptors, and it can stop a lot of essential nutrients from actually reaching the hair, and so hair growth begins to slow down. It can stop. Hair becomes severely undernourished, and it basically begins to thin. The hair follicles begin to thin, the hair itself begins to thin, and eventually the hair, it basically starves and dies, and which results in baldness. So we can see in many cases when there is elevated DHT in the body at the kind of wrong time in life, this is how it really relates to androgen-related hair loss. And of course the prostate also has a number of androgen receptors on it, so DHT can also bind to these receptors and actually stimulate the prostate to grow irregularly, and contribute to things like benign prostatic hyperplasia, which is really the non-malignant growth of the prostate, which, as I mentioned, is more common in older men, middle age and beyond that, but it does have some relevance to people younger as well. So because testosterone is converted in the body into DHT, and obviously pine pollen is becoming very famous for its ability to elevate testosterone and other androgens in the body, this is really why people are drawing this kind of conclusion, and there's this hesitation as to whether or not pine pollen might be beneficial for them. So generally speaking, older men do begin to experience a significant decrease in the production of testosterone, and also an increase in sex hormone binding globulin, which attaches itself to testosterone in the bloodstream and basically just renders it biologically inactive. So this can bring many unwelcome health implications, like weight gain or lack of focus, lack of clarity, lack of motivation, and it can also allow the dominance of certain estrogen hormones as well, which can kind of increase a certain amount of femininity in older men, and also increase the risk of a number of different types of cancer. So elevating testosterone and androgens within the body is really very important, but it is very important to keep that DHT down nice and low. So to get to the point of this video, how does pine pollen play into all this? Well, Obviously, it does elevate the androgens and testosterone really quite significantly, especially the tincture, but it also contains a plant sterol called epibrasinolide, which actually reduces and inhibits the activity of 5-alpha reductase, which is the enzyme responsible for converting testosterone into DHT. And it also has, many other plant steroids in it, some of which are called gibberellins, and some of those actually impart a kind of host-mediated anti-inflammatory response on the prostate in particular, and they really do exhibit this kind of effect on benign prostatic hyperplasia. So, pines have really been doing this for a very long time. They've been doing their thing on this planet for millions and millions of years. They're extremely evolved, very, very highly intelligent. They have a very complex and advanced intelligence to them. So when we're consuming them, it's not like they just do one thing and we've got to be concerned about that necessarily. That they do not. This kind of natural herbal, ancient herbal medicine does not work in the same way as isolated compounds and isolated pharmaceutical drugs with these kind of unwanted negative side effects. We're talking about millions of years of evolution here. So, in short, I would say, no, there really isn't an issue about elevating DHT. Based on the limited research I've done, at least. So I would advise you, if you are really concerned about this, to again look into this yourself and actually see if you can dig up any other information on this subject. But basically, that's what I found, and yeah, I mean, it seriously seems to suggest that the elevating of androgens in men middle age and beyond isn't going to result in the unwanted effects of elevating DHT as well.